God bless everybody. It's May 30th, 2024, and Erdogan is getting ready to invade. I've been talking about this for some time. I didn't know if it happened in the end of May or first part of June, but I knew it was in that time slot because it has to be based on the parable, the fig tree, and the paradigm of the three modern day kings that I've given you for some time now. He has to break out. He's in a compressed time zone. Right now, though, Turkey is signaling, and I just did a video about this yesterday. And in this video, I'd indicated how Turkey was ready to invade. Turkey's Erdogan is calling on the Islamic world to take over Gaza. They are not going to allow this to continue. That strike that Israel did on Raqqa that killed 45 people or whatever, and even Netanyahu had indicated that that was a mistake that they had made. This is sending ripples through global Muslim community, as well as a lot of fringe groups that support Gaza and the Palestinian people in one way or the other. And a lot of these groups are in the United States. You can see a lot of these demonstrations and things on our campuses and things while they're throwing. Look, if you're putting a Palestinian flag up in our country in the United States, I'm sorry, you don't get it. This is the United States and we're a Christian nation, and we don't want your flags and your mosques and things in our church, in our country. We're a Christian nation. I don't know how we pervert ourselves into something that's not, but we've allowed that to happen over times, and so that's where we are today. But anyway, Erdogan is getting ready to invade. You need to understand what's getting ready to happen. June is going to break out hard, and you're probably not ready, and you probably don't have enough oil in your lamp. I just want to let you know this has been on the paradigm forever. I've talked about this for some time, and that we would see this all happen around May or June of this year, and it's coming right now. But in that video, and I was getting ready to do another video about this Kurdish election, I haven't had time to do this. I had indicated that if you go to chapter 11 in Daniel, the very first verse is about Darius or Darius the Mede and how the Medes are going to be affected, and we have an election on June 10th or 11th of this year, and that this was going to be the first king or the first year of that king, and so we would see Turkey enter the fray, and this man is getting ready to change the Middle East due to this. And so you need to understand, now he's threatening the Kurds or the Medes in history that if they run their local elections, he will come in and deal with them. Okay, it's just that simple. And Erdogan is a man of his word, and he will do this, okay? So he indicates Turkey won't hesitate to act against the Kurdish-led groups in northern Syria. Doesn't say anything about Iraq here, guys. I'm talking about the invasion, the main force invasion that's going to go down into Syria, down into Tyre, through Israel, down into Gaza, will be from Turkey into Syria. I don't know how many times I've talked about this and how it's going to follow the exact path that Alexander the Great had, and how you can go out and Google Alexander the Great's movements through the Middle East, and you can see these actual movements and how this is going to occur in the future. It's that simple. He gave you a book that is the manual to the end that gives you a history lesson that will play out in the future because he wants you to understand what's coming. It's just that simple. So due to these elections, he said that he would come in. Now the elections are going to be held around the 10th or the 11th, depending on what time zone you're in, and we're 8 hours behind Israel, and so you have to sort of understand that. This will be against the Kurds or the Medes. This is extremely important that we understand. This is Daniel 8. Also, if you look at Daniel 11, it talks about the four winds. We talked about that in the last video. If you go to the four winds, and it talks about this, the nation of Iran and the Kurds falling and then being released into the four winds, which is talking about the seventh seal where they're held and then being released on the sixth trumpet, you'll understand that as the entrance of Antichrist. He's not here yet. We're still in the birth pains and sorrows in the seals, not the trumpets yet. We're waiting for a sixth seal event, which would be around March of next year, which is a nightmare on the planet, okay? And you need to understand that. And by that time, Israel will be under massive duress, and 2/3 of their population will perish in that judgment. Now, I know Israel doesn't want to hear that, but that's what God tells them. And they need to understand that they're getting ready to go under massive judgment. And a lot of their population, especially the non-Jesus believing Jews, because they don't all believe in the Son of God as the Son of God. They believe he's a prophet or a man. Don't know how they quite get to that resolution, but anyway, the 1/3 of the Jews that do believe will be removed. Turkey's going to amplify this situation any day, okay? And it's going to be ugly when he does. He's going to bring everything in, and he's going to control this situation in a short period of time with God's help, because God's going to allow him to do this. This is ordained by God, okay? We cannot change what's coming. There's nothing you can do, and I've said this many times. You could drop a nuclear bomb on this guy, and he would be shielded and walk away because he has a mission. And his mission is to bring Israel under judgment. God is allowing him to do this, okay? So there's nothing you can do about it other than get your oil in your lamp and ride this thing out, okay? You have 1,575 days tomorrow, because we're almost done today, to the Feast of Trumpets of 28. And you need to understand that. That's September 21st of 28. If you move back into where we are today, from today to the Feast of Trumpets of September 21st of 28, you have 1,575 days. So you are counting down days quickly, and if you subtract 1,260 days from that time of 1,575 days, you're down to 315 days before we see a signing of a treaty with Antichrist. So you need to understand what's coming up here, guys. Look, Erdogan is serious about that, and he's getting ready to come in. Turkey, which has launched military operations in the past, they started this original attack in 2019 where they started to set up these buffer zones in these bases and things like that. They converted it to cloth sword in 22. That should remind you of the great sword, Revelation Seal 2, where pieces being taken from the earth. And that Turkey would launch these military operations against Kurdish entities across their border to protect their border from what they call a terrorist nation. Erdogan is describing this basically as a territorial threat, integrity to both Israel to Syria and Turkey. We are closely following the aggressive actions by terrorist organizations against the territorial integrity of our country and of Syria under the pretext of an election, Erdogan said after observing military exercises in western Turkey. And that's another thing. They just had this huge, massive operation. So in May, this is May 8th actually, because of the way they do things in their country. They've conducted 3 major exercises in May. They're getting ready for the invasion. This is all preparatory work. Look, all you got to do is look at Ukraine, and you saw Russia come in, amass troops, do a bunch of exercises, and then they penetrated, okay? This is the same thing that's going to happen here. You need to understand what's coming up, guys. This is going to change oil prices. It's going to change the markets. It's going to change gold price. It's going to change everything out here, and you need to understand what's going on. This is going to run, and this is why they haven't invaded yet, because they've had these exercises that ran from May 6th to 17th, and from May 9th to May 30th, and so right after this, they're going to go in. And I've talked about this. You've got an astrological conjunction of 6 planets on May 5th through like the 10th is the major area there, right around this time of the Kurdish elections. And so God is warning you. He's showing you all these things so you understand what's coming up. So Turkey indicates in this last portion of this article that Turkey will never allow the separatist organization to establish a terrorist state just beyond the southern borders in the northern part of Syria and Iraq. Okay, because look, the Kurdish groups are in 4 countries. I indicate they're like nomads. They really don't own a country. They've never been able to establish their own state. And now even the Kurds will be under massive judgment, just as Israel is, just as Persia will be, because you're going to see a destruction of Persia and the Kurds, as well as Israel is going to be attacked by tenfold nations of Muslims in the next year. So you need to understand what's coming, guys. This is, if you can't see this now, and you can't see this is the boogeyman that's not Antichrist yet, and I just had this discussion with someone. Erdogan is not Antichrist. He's not been destroyed, broken. The large horn has to be broken. This man will die, and he will be brought back forth as a resurrected Antichrist with supernatural powers, as Satan is being thrown from heaven on the 5th trumpet, opening up the pit. Michael stands on the pit, literally pulls Satan from heaven, throws him to earth, expels him from heaven, and then we get him discharged here for 1260 days for a shortened period of time, and he only gets power for 1260 days. So I've been talking about how this is not a 7-year period, and if you take it into the fall feast of 28, you'll realize it can't be. And if you go into the Bible, he indicates he shortens the second half. So when you go into Daniel 9 and things like that, it's going to talk about a 7-year process, but you got to realize also that you got to radiate out of Daniel and realize that you need to look at the shortened half. And we've talked about this many times, and that's why on my chart it is a shortened period of time within the strong generation, within this Shemitah cycle of September 22 to September 29. It's the strong generation, which ends on May 14th of 2028, and so it has to fall. I knew it had to fall between the fall feast of 27 and fall feast of 28. I just wasn't sure which one. Now we know which one, because it's compressed to the point where it has to be expanded, but you can't move it out any further. You go to fall feast of 29, you cut the Shemitah cycle off, you cut the fall feast off from that cycle, and it doesn't work. And that's why this is going to ramp up so tremendously, because you are at the end of the map. Okay, I can't expand it out anymore. There is no further room to take it. So you won't see me adjust it. The only thing you're going to see me adjust on these charts that I've given you is that real-time events that are happening right now, like I have on the chart where Turkey's going to invade. So just so you know, I always have this free Wix site out here. It has all my PDFs, all my charts. Actually, the one I'm going to show you is a printable chart. It's small, but you can read it, and you want to print it out so you can keep it on the shelf so you can follow these events that are coming up, because it's going to play out almost exactly as the chart tells you at this point. endofdayssurvival.com. You come down here, you click on this 5th PDF, that will take you to the chart that we're going to follow here. When you click on that link, it will bring up this chart. You are right here in this area here, okay? And so I'm going to blow this up and so you can see it. Now, we just had the April eclipse of 2230. We're moving into May, or we're in May. We're getting ready to go into June. I wasn't really sure if this was a May thing, a June thing. I knew the Hezbollah was getting ready to come in around June, July. So we're overlapping on events and things like that. And think about this. He's going to go into Tyre, Lebanon first, which if you go into Alexander the Great's movement, and when he ended up there, it was around the end of July when Tyre fell. Then he went into Gaza, and Gaza fell around the end of October. Then he ended up in Iran around the end of the year, and it fell by January. Okay, and so that would end Daniel 8 here. Okay, and I've got that around November, December, January. I'm looking at history. It's going to play out just like it did back then, and we are in that zone of time right now. So once you get into March of next year, you have what we call the Sixth Seal event. Okay, this six, and look how March 88's out here. It goes from this date all the way through here. There's a lot going on in March. But once you hit this last date of March 31st, I believe you will see a Sixth Seal event and a red heifer sacrifice on that very specific date, because he splits the Mount of Olives in half and allows the third of the Jews to escape to the hidden area of Jordan or Edom for the 1260 days, so they can be veiled against Antichrist and Satan for the 1260 days. Okay, so realize you are right here. You're right here. This is a real-time map. This is showing you what's coming up here, guys, and this is a real-time paradigm in real life. Every one of these mostly has a verse attached to it on these events, because as you go through them, you realize that I brought this directly from the Bible. And what's really interesting is Daniel is very, very, very specific in talking about a king and the time of his reign. On this very day of his reign, of this month of this reign, a very specific thing happens. And you need to understand he gave you that for a specific reason, because it will play out exactly like it did in the past. So Turkey's getting ready to come in, guys. You need to get your oil in your lamp. You need, look, it's going to hyperinflate here soon. And if you have not purchased or done what you need to do, you may not be able to afford the same amount of resources that you would if you had bought them now. And that's not financial advice, but I'm guaranteeing you that you probably want to think about it at least, and maybe shore your stuff up at least a little bit and see how this plays out as we go into June. You'll see it coming because you're watching for it, okay? And you'll be one up over the other guy, but if you see it coming, you probably ought to be out here talking to these people so that they understand what's going on. And I get it. Most people don't have the depth to understand exactly what's going on out here. A lot of people don't even know what a Sixth Seal event is, because they're not really that into the prophecy, and the churches really don't teach a lot of this stuff. Sixth Seal is rough on the world, man. You're talking about Jesus coming down and stepping his feet on the Mount of Olives, splitting it in half, creating a earthquake event over there that's going to radiate throughout the whole world. And you will know at that moment in time where you are, because you'll see it coming, and you'll know when it's coming, and you'll know that it happened. So I'm trying to explain to you, this man Erdogan is getting ready to change your lives. As you get into March and April of next year, you are going to be into a 1260-day signing of a treaty here, guys, with an actual Antichrist on the ground that rises on the 5th and 6th trumpet. Okay? Which will take you into, look at that, Egypt's being decimated here. Countries are going to be decimated, and you're getting ready to walk into, and I got to bring this up real quick. Trump just got indicted on 34 charges, and this is going to be a real problem for our country because he was not guilty of anything. They've never charged him for anything. You can say whatever you want, but they've never charged him for anything, and there's no reason this kangaroo court would ever have convicted him in any way, shape, or form other than it's a political thing to get Joey Biden in the office and to keep Trump off the trail. Okay, it's just that simple. And so once you realize that our government is fascist and corrupt and will not go back to any normality, this is why God is fixing the problem, because it's broken. It's just that simple. So God bless. Get ready. This one's going to be terrible. Bye.